Hi everyone, it's Lucy from My Crazy Craft Life, and today I'm here with the design team post for Scrapping for Less. Today I'm going to be making this fun fold slimline card. So you're going to start out by taking a piece of paper that is 10.5 inches by 8.5 inches. And you're going to mark off at 4.5 on one side of the 8.5 inch side. And then I forgot to cut it down, so I'm just cutting it down to the 10.5 inches. And then I found it the easiest to draw a line from the 4.5 inch mark to the 8.5 inch mark. So then you see there's kind of my template. Now you can certainly just use a template once you make it once, or you can do the same thing and just draw it in there. Now you see I forgot to cut this one off too as I was starting, so you do want to make sure that you have it cut down to the 10.5 inches by the time you're done, or at least making your card base. And then you're just going to cut from the tick mark that you put on there to the corner. So that's going to leave you a 10.5 inch by 8.5 inch at the longest point and 4.5 inch on the shortest point. Then score it at 3.5 inches all the way across. So 3.5 inches and then 7 inches. Then I flipped back and forth on which way I wanted to do this. So you could actually do a valley and a mountain fold, which is what I did, or you can do a mountain and a valley fold. Just depends on how you want the card to open. Now to make the inside panels, I am just using a white piece of cardstock that I cut down to 3.25 inches wide, and it's by 8.5. Now you want it to end up being about 8.25. But you also need to put that diagonal line into it. So what I did was just kind of put it in the position I wanted it, moved it up about 1/4 inch, and then flipped the card over, held it in place while I flipped it over and just drew the line. So and then I just cut it out from the line, on the line that I drew, so that it had the right diagonal line that I needed. And then since I am using 6-inch paper, square paper, it's not going to be long enough to fit in that center area. So I just decided to use some of my scraps and kind of piece something together that I liked. Again, I'm cutting it out at the 3.25 inches, and then I am going to cut it down again the same way by holding it in place, kind of flipping it over and drawing the line so that I have that proper diagonal line that I need on there. And then I'm just going to kind of measure how much I want, or I'm going to need for the smaller piece. Now I kind of cut around the areas that I wanted, because on that piece of scrap paper it says Merry Christmas, the full word Merry Christmas, and so I wanted to make sure I kept that on there. And then the final piece is large enough to fit on there, so I cut it down to the 3.25 inches and then just positioned it where I wanted. You could even use non-permanent adhesive to stick it down there for a minute and hold it in place while you cut it, but you do want to make sure that you give yourself that little bit of extra room, about 1/8 inch, because don't forget you're going to want that 1/4 or 1/8 inch all around all sides of it. So you got to make sure that you cut it short enough to do that. And then I'm just going to place this in, which this will work out perfectly with the white, so that I can have an area to put my note and to who it's, who I'm giving it to and all of that good stuff. And then I can also decorate that piece as I go. And then I'm just going to adhere all of these pieces in. And this is what is going to create your card base and then the top layers of the card. And then again, that center piece, I'm just going to kind of piece it together, making sure that I line it up correctly where I want it to go. Now I will say, if you're using pattern paper, do make sure that the pattern is on the right side. That's why I actually liked adhering it down or holding it down and then drawing a line on the back, because then I know for sure that the pattern is in the right direction. Now there's certainly other ways you can go about cutting this, but this is what I found was the simplest thing to do. So then I'm just going to kind of start decorating, and I'll be honest, I didn't have a whole ton of ideas. I knew which papers I wanted to use, and I kind of knew, you know, what I was thinking of the look, but I didn't really know what I was going to do when I first started this. Sometimes when I make my cards, you know, I have a clear plan, I have a clear idea of what I want it to look like and what I want it to be when I'm done with it. But for this one, I didn't. I just knew I wanted to use as much of the kit as I possibly could. So that's kind of what I did. I used pieces from pretty much every collection, including the extra packet with the banana split level. This piece that I'm cutting right now is actually a piece that I used from the collection, or I mean from the blog hop that I messed up on, and so I was able to use it on this one. And for that front panel piece, the longest part is 4 1/4 inches, and then it's 1 1/4 inches wide, and then the top is just kind of, you know, cut diagonally. Then I cut out 2 of the tag dies. One was from the pattern paper, the largest one, and then the second to the largest one, I just cut out in white. I stamped a sentiment on there, and then I'm going to pop that right in the center. I'm going to grab some of that twine that was part of the kit and put that through just the top one. And then I did not adhere that because I was kind of going back and forth. I wasn't sure if I wanted to double up on it or put foam tape on it, or how I wanted to adhere that at first. So I just kind of let it sit there while I was finishing some of the rest of the stuff. So I used sentiments from, I think the only one I didn't use the sentiment from was the snowman stamp set. I think everything else I did. So I ended up cutting Here Comes Santa Claus on a banner. And then I decided to use the Believe. I stamped that in red, and then the Believe I stamped in green. And then what I'm going to do is just kind of cut that out and round out the corners with the crocodile. And so then I will be able to kind of move that around to where different areas that I want it. Now the strip for Here Comes Santa Claus is just under 3 inches, and it is just a little bit under 1/2 inch. And then the panel for Believe is 2 3/4 inches by 1 3/4 inches. And so that's what I'm going to adhere down. And you see that I already have a stamp on there. I'm using a scrap piece, but you know, nobody's going to be able to see it. I'm adhering it down onto the paper. And this is thick enough paper that you didn't see the stamp below that. Then I'm going to take the stencil, and I'm just going to use some fossilized amber Distress Oxide ink and create that, or put that kind of star ornament or whatever that is on to the top corner of this card. Now I put all of that Post-it note tape down, and it does a couple things. One, it's going to make sure that I don't make a mess and accidentally, you know, hit another area of the stencil, but then it's also going to help hold it down where the cutouts actually are, so it's going to help me hold it down a little bit. And then I'm going to play around with this for a few minutes to see how I wanted to get that set. And I just kind of take a piece of scrap paper that I got and see how it looks once I stamp it. And because I used 3 separate sentiments that said Happy Holidays, and then one said the most wonderful time. It's the most wonderful, and then the third one was time of the year. And so I kind of went back and forth on how I wanted it to look. I thought it would kind of look cool one way, and then I didn't like how that looked, so I kept playing with it until I got it to a way that I liked. And once I set that up and I got everything situated how I wanted to, then I was able to put it onto my card. Right in the center there, make sure that it's stamped well, which I was glad, since I didn't use a stamping tool to get that done. I ultimately decided not to pop that up, especially since this was a folded card, a double fold card. I didn't want it to have too much bulk on it. I used some of the ephemera. There I'm using some of the enamel dots that are left, and I used the ribbon that was part of one of the collections as well. And that's going to finish up my card. I hope you enjoyed this video. Make sure you check out the videos at the end. I hope everybody has a great day. Stay healthy. Take care. See you next time.